All right, guys, we got a problem. That is the NBA refs. And we're going to talk about it here on this edition of the Sundress Dunks podcast. Man, the NBA reffing has always been terrible, but it has reached new heights not seen since the days of Tim Donaghy. I don't even know what to say after this week. It was so crazy in both of our games against the Lakers and the Warriors. First, the Lakers shoot about a bazillion free throws, and then the end of the game was a complete shit show. You had LeBron punching Dylan Brooks in the stomach. They don't even call a foul, and they don't even address it. Just completely ignore the fact that he punches him. And then the same thing happens in the Warriors game where Dylan Brooks commits that foul and they call a flagrant foul. The exact same thing, two totally different outcomes. And then, of course, you have LeBron getting up in the ref's face and basically attacking him, and they completely ignore it. They would have thrown anyone else out of the game. And so we have to bring in our Twitter shout out right now off the top. And that is going to be from Squid. He's at I am Squid, SKWID. And he shows the screenshot of LeBron grabbing the referee. He's got his hands all over him. He's grabbing him. No other player in the league is allowed to do that. Squid says, there was no unsportsmanlike act observed for making contact with the referee, quoting the report they released after the game. Are you kidding me? I don't know how we're supposed to take this league seriously when they allow plays like this. And you saw a lot of people in the NBA complaining about the refereeing this week. You saw Sarah Thompson from the Detroit Pistons get ejected for getting up in the referee's face, and they said he made contact with the referee. I don't even think he made contact. If anything, the referee made contact with him, but they threw him out the game, and they did not do anything to LeBron James. And that is just a complete joke. Every day you have coaches and players complaining about the referees, and they're doing nothing about it, and it is just an absolute joke. And so what else can we take away from the Lakers game besides the poor refereeing? Booker led in scoring as he did in both games this week. The biggest reason we really lost against the Lakers was the rebounding. We lost the rebounding 54-37. We lost the rebound battles in both games this week. We really got to clean that up. We've made it our mission this year to win the possession battle, and you cannot get out rebounded by 17 and win a game. You know, it was amazing that we made that late comeback against the Lakers and almost won that game, and might have with a better refereeing crew, but you cannot put yourselves in that position. We have got to get better on the rebounds. You know, we had fewer turnovers than the Lakers. We made 13 threes, and the Lakers only made 7 threes, and we even outshot them 49-43. But you let DeAndre Ayton have his revenge game, going 20-13 with shooting 10 for 11, mostly on midi jumpers. Did we purposefully allow Ayton to shoot all those? It seemed like he was constantly wide open. I don't know if that was a coaching decision or what, but you really hate to see DeAndre Ayton go off against us like that. And then you let Hayes, Vanderbilt, and LaRavia come off the Lakers bench and combine for 24 rebounds, including 12 offensive. That is just unacceptable. So at least we had a second game this week against the Warriors. The refereeing was just as bad, if not worse. But we did get to see Booker get to the line 16 times, and he made 13. He finished with 25 points. Mark Williams had 20 points with 6 rebounds and 3 blocks. And Brooks had 18 points, but not much else. But, again, we were out rebounded 54-49, even though the Warriors are not a good rebounding team. The Warriors had 20 turnovers, and we only had 15, so we won that battle. The free throws were basically even, and they only made 12 threes to our 10. And so it was a very close game. Personally, is one of my favorite wins of the season because it was such a tough game. We had to keep fighting back. The referees were terrible. And somehow we pulled it out with Jordan Goodwin at the end making the free throw. But really the biggest reason we won was we held Stephen Curry to 3 for 13 shooting. We held Post to 3 for 14 shooting and Moody for 2 for 10 shooting. But they were kept in the game by Butler going off for 31 points and Podziemski going 8 for 11 with 18 points. Does it seem like Podziemski always goes off against us and then he does nothing against the other teams? I don't know why we can't guard that guy. He has the most punchable face in the NBA. He's always flopping, but he always plays well against the Suns. And that's very, very frustrating. But, Dylan Brooks had 24 points in this game. Gillespie, man, 16 points. He gets injured. He comes back like Willis Reed. This guy's so tough. He's one of my favorite players to watch ever. He just leaves it all on the floor. He's constantly diving, constantly battling. Colin Gillespie, you are amazing. Also in this game, we had Oso with 13 rebounds and 5 steals, playing 28 minutes and outplaying Mark Williams, keeping him on the bench. He only played 19 minutes, and he only had 6 points and 4 rebounds. Is that Mark Williams' worst game as a Sun? That's definitely something to monitor going forward. Mark has been amazing for us, but he did not do it against the Warriors. So let's see who had our Sunderous dunk this week.
Brooks on the drive, bouncing it inside to Iguodala.
That's what I was
question about that one.
That was also Oso Iguodala. Great game from him. It's really nice to see him battling out there, and we'll see if he can keep it going. He's definitely our backup big now, but I don't know if he can keep stealing minutes from Mark Williams. We'll see. But so let's do our stock report. And of course, for the first stock up, you got to give it to Oso. He's playing great lately. He's even earning playing time against Mark, at least in the last win. Had the 13 rebounds, 5 steals. You got to give him credit. I really hope Oso can keep playing well. He makes the team so much better when he is playing well. He's a great passer. He has great chemistry with guys like Colin Gillespie. And so he really makes our second unit much more potent when he's playing well and not committing stupid fouls and stupid turnovers. But who is going to be my second and final stock up this week? That has to be one of the most surprising, possibly the most surprising stock up award I will ever give, and that is going to be to Earl Watson. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he went on a podcast this week and said that Robert Sarver and Ryan McDonough came to him, wanted him to come to Sarver's house at 2:00 in the morning and said, "We want you to trade Devin Booker for Jimmy Butler from the Chicago Bulls." This is in 2017 when Booker's like in his second season. And of course, Jimmy Butler's an all-star. He's a great player at that time, even better than he is now. But Devin Booker, was just starting his ascension. And Earl Watson saw what we had in Devin Booker, and that he could be the best franchise player in history. He could be one of the best shooting guards in history. And according to Watson on the podcast, at least, he said, if you trade Devin Booker, I'm going to resign tonight. And so if this is a true story, which, it's a little hard to believe, but when you have one of the worst owners in history, you have one of the worst GMs in Ryan McDonough, and when Earl Watson is giving such specific details about going to Sarver's house late at night, you have to think that there was at least a trade on the table. Maybe not completely agreed to, but it seems like there was some truth to it, that they were really considering this, and how this would have changed the franchise completely. I can't even imagine if we had traded Devin Booker. I don't think it would be a good move. Obviously, Booker's been amazing. He's quickly becoming the best franchise player in history. But, apart from that, even if Butler arguably was the better player, especially at the time, I don't think that would have worked out. Jimmy Butler is known for being a malcontent. He had a lot of issues going on at that time. You put him in a completely dysfunctional franchise with Robert Sarver as the owner, and we know how bad the Suns were during those years. Butler would not have been happy here. He would not have played his best. He would have immediately asked out for a trade. He would have pulled the same crap he pulled in Minnesota. And the Suns would have been a laughingstock, and they probably would have gotten hosed in the trade for him, just like Minnesota did. And we wouldn't have Devin Booker. We wouldn't have the finals appearance in 2021. We wouldn't have the Valley Oop. We probably wouldn't have Chris Paul. And who knows what would happen? We might not have Jordan Ott right now. The history would have been totally changed. And I definitely do not think it would be for the better. I definitely do not think we would be where we are right now if we had done it. And so, Earl Watson, kudos to you. You get the stock up this week, big time. Probably the only time I'll ever say anything nice about you. But Earl, thank God you nixed that trade. If you did, thank goodness. But who is going to be the stock down for this week? Going to have to go outside the Suns for this one and say it's the NBA and it's their credibility. The referees obviously are a big problem, but the NBA is completely ignoring that. They're coming out this week with a bunch of reports on how they're going to try to tackle sports betting, making injury reporting more transparent. You got to update injuries every 15 minutes before a game. They're saying they're going to try to tackle tanking, but they're doing nothing about the refereeing. And that is really the big problem. And, they put out these last 2-minute reports that are complete nonsense. They, a lot of times, are filled with complete misinformation. They ignore things that happen, like LeBron punching Dylan Brooks in the stomach. And they're basically propaganda. They're basically trying to make the referees and the NBA look better. I think the only conspiracy right now that's bigger than the NBA refereeing is the Epstein files. I mean, this is outrageous. I don't know if we can ever take the NBA seriously if they do not fix this refereeing. And so we will see, how the Suns can deal with it all. The team stock is really good right now. We're 15-12. We're still in 7th place. It seems like we're stuck there for now. We're 2.5 games behind the Wolves, and we're 2 ahead of Memphis. But now all the eyes turn to Jalen Green. Will he come back this week? That's going to be the big question for this week. Jalen, we saw it in that one game. He played amazing. If you look at all the stats, he's still got the best plus minus on the Suns and everything like that. And he showed us what we can do when we have Jalen Green out on the floor. He opens up everything for everyone, especially Devin Booker. Devin Booker's really been struggling. He can't make a three-pointer to save his life. He's getting double and triple teamed on every possession. And so Devin Booker wants Jalen Green back as much as anybody. And so will we see Jalen this week? That's going to be the big question, because when he gets out there, he totally changes the outlook and he totally changes the ceiling of the Suns. And so what do the Suns have to deal with this week? Tonight, they go on the road versus the Warriors. Got to play those guys again. We are 2.5 games ahead of the Warriors. Can we bury them in the standings, or will they get their revenge? Will Stephen Curry bounce back? Will Mark Williams bounce back? How about Dylan Brooks? The NBA did rescind his last technical from the last Warriors game, so that's good. But, Brooks, I think he still got 8 technicals. And when you get to 16 technicals, that makes you have to sit a game. So we've got to watch Dylan Brooks' technical fouls. It's really hard when they call them on him just for breathing on people, but he's got to be a little bit better and not allow the refs to call that. So we'll see if we can beat the Warriors again. Kuminga is questionable with the illness, or what's really trade block-itis, I believe. But then on Tuesday, we will play the Lakers again at home. These guys, again, we need payback. Will we get fair refs, or will they just let LeBron do anything he wants and attack the refs again? Will Dylan Brooks cause a fight? Will Jalen play? There's at least a small chance Jalen plays that game. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he plays until after Christmas. There's a bigger chance that Jalen comes back during the back-to-back versus the Pelicans. We have to play them Friday and Saturday, both on the road. Only Friday is before the next time we podcast. So will he return in one of those 2 games? It doesn't make sense probably to play him in both nights of the back-to-back on his first night back, but I think they could bring Jalen back for at least one of those games. Of course, you've got the Pelicans at 6-22. They're the last place team in the Western Conference. Zion and Jordan Poole have hardly played, but you've got Trey Murphy averaging 21 points, but possibly on the trade block. A lot of teams circling the wagon for him, as they are for Saddiq Bey, who's averaging 14.7 points. And then they've got the rookie, Jeremiah Fears, averaging 15.4 points. So they've got some talent, but you have to win both of those games against the Pelicans. You cannot lose to those guys. But the real question will be, does Jalen Green return this week for the Suns? Because when he does, it's Suns up.